Great. Live stream is coming up halfway. Crossing my fingers, my internet will be enough.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
No, it's going all fine.
The preparation meeting that we had last Tuesday, I think that was the first time my Zoom's ever crashed. So
Yeah.
I'm praying it doesn't happen again.
Let me see. Copy streaming link. Yes, I can copy the streaming link right now. Now I put it in the chat for you. So this is the link of our current live stream. So please please use it. I'm also using it to put it now in my Twitter. Awesome. So the tweet is out.
Aniek, do you have a plan for the a page with some steps for the youth group that if you might be kicked out of the meeting that I can continue for a bit?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
Do you have like a plan, like a document saying like this is stuff I want to go through with the group that you can in any way share, or is it just on the top of your head?
No, I was just gonna wing that.
Yeah, no, okay. Well, that's fine. But
But I do like the questions that you just sent me, so we can also use those. So let's take those to begin with, and maybe divert when it's necessary. But try to go through those questions.
Great.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Then I can also always go on with those questions.
Important to state we're live on YouTube. I'm also have put on the recording, so double-wise, so that's also saved in the cloud. Are you all okay that I'm sharing my screen again, so that we have the waiting screen, and then I will allow all the participants?
Sounds great. Yes.
Good. Then I'm sharing my screen again. I know that most of you now are also co-hosts, so could someone else maybe allow all the people to come in?
I just admit all.
Yeah, that's the way you do it.
Yeah. Welcome to the first participants. We are about to start in 4 minutes, so we're going to wait a bit more for others to participate, and then we will start. Welcome also to the other ones who just joined in. We're starting in 2 minutes.
And please put the number of the breakout group you want to join in front of your name. So just click on your own screen. You see 3 white dots with a blue square. When you click on it, you see the option rename yourself.
We will tell you later on also more information about the breakout room. If you already know which one you want to take, enter the number, please. Good evening. We're almost ready. Let's wait 1 minute to be perfectly on time, and then we will start. Well, I guess we can start. It's sharp 7 p.m. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. It's great to see you in such a great number here. That means that many people already are interested in the Climate Pact. For us, it's also new. The Dutch ambassadors joined the Climate Pact last December. And this is our first event that we're launching. So hopefully after tonight, we will have more ambassadors that join us, and we will also have learned more about the EU Climate Pact. If you have any questions or any comments, please feel free to add them in the chat. We will try to answer them as much as possible during the night. And if we won't be able to answer them directly, we hope to get back to you personally. As you can see now, we have later on during the presentation 5 breakout rooms. We want to ask you already to put your number of interests before your name. You can do that by going to your face, like the picture, your screen, like where your face is on the screen. There are 3 dots right above where you can click rename, and then you can add a number. Later on, I will give you more information about exactly what the breakout rooms entail. For now, I want to start introducing myself first. I am Noor Karapinar. I finished a Master of Sustainable Development, and currently I'm working as a sustainability consultant at Sustainalyze, where I help companies manage their sustainability, which means from developing their strategy to impact measurement, but also with, for instance, sustainability reporting. And I hope with the European Climate Pact ambassadorship, I will have an extra effort to accelerate climate action and to be part of a movement. And today I will be your moderator. So I hope you will enjoy tonight. Please participate with us throughout the chats, and I hope you have some coffee or tea or some drinks, and please enjoy as well. Fons, can you go to the next slide, please? Yes, so I would like to introduce to you the Dutch ambassadors of the Climate Pact. We are with 6, and I hope after this event we will be with much more. Levin, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I hope everyone hears me well. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Levon again. I'm a mathematician, computer scientist by education with a background in environmental assessment and modeling. Currently, I work at Leiden University on one of the European Horizon 2020 projects on the global material footprints of nations. And I try to be as active as possible in my local community. And I became an ambassador and joined the Climate Pact to explore the possibilities to support my local environmental actions through the Pact. And it's a pleasure to be with everyone here today again.
Thank you, Levin. Cheba, can you introduce yourself, please?
Good evening to you all. I am Chebe. I'm currently a master's student at Leiden University. I do biotechnology, and I hope to be your way of contacting the European Climate Pact and getting more information from the European Commission itself, if you are a student or if you are a political organization, which both will be something I will strive to help.
Great, thank you, Chebe. Laura?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Laura Meninka, and I'm proud to be a European Climate Pact ambassador, and I'm representing the Footprint Challenge. The Footprint Challenge offers sustainability programs for companies, governments, and educational institutions to empower people from all age groups to reduce their footprint and to increase their handprint, and that's their positive impact. And our pledge is to challenge as many people as possible to take concrete climate actions in daily life. Thank you.
Nice. Ted, can you please introduce yourself too?
Hi everyone, I'm Teddy. I'm a chemical engineer from Rotterdam. I'm working at a specialty chemical company that makes ingredients for everyday household goods. You talk about paint, toothpaste, soap, shampoo, all that kind of thing. And I'm hoping to, encourage other people to get involved with sustainability, not just through the work, but through their everyday lives and their communities, organizations, whatever activities that they have. So great to have you all here.
Thank you, Ted. And last but not least, Fons, please.
Hello everybody, my name is Fons Jansen. I'm 25 years old. I live in the rural community here in the north of Limburg in a small village called Veulen. Over the last 3 years I've been active for climate action to really support youth participation, first via the Dutch Climate Agreement and since 1 year also together with Ted on the European level. So I'm really proud to be a European Climate Pact ambassador and really helping not only the youth and young professionals here in the Netherlands but all over Europe to really get their hands on it and to make sure that our generation, together with the older generations, are achieving the goals that we have set ourselves in the European Green Deal.
Thank you, Fons. Yes, so these are the Dutch EU Climate Pact ambassadors. And to understand a bit more who is here tonight in our session, we have a special poll to get to know you better. So Fons, can you please...
Yes, I'm launching the poll right now. So it would be good if people can fill it in. The screen, probably it will pop out now. I see the first answers are coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Almost half of the answers are coming in.
The Netherlands is, as expected, well represented, but also some other European countries are here.
Yeah, almost everybody has filled it in. We'll wait a few more seconds. 3, 2, 1.
And
I'm sharing the results so everybody can also see it now.
Great. Yeah, so mostly the most attendants are from the Netherlands, but there are also some attendees from out of the Netherlands, which is great to see. Welcome everyone again. And it's also nice to see that we have representations of several stakeholder groups, NGO, business, governmental, and also from universities, I guess. Well, great to see you. Welcome everyone again. Well, we would like to share with you the program of tonight. So we just had the opening of after, in a bit, Joris Overmeer from the European Commission will tell you more about the European Green Deal and the European Climate Pact as part of the European Green Deal, which we will follow after with a Q&A. So again, if you have any questions for Joris, this is your moment. Put your questions in the chat. And then we will start with a panel discussion. We have great speakers for you tonight, where we hopefully touch upon some nice topics. After the panel discussion, we will have a short break, and then we will start with the breakout rooms, where we also try to achieve a bit more interaction with you guys. And after the breakout sessions, we will come together again in the plenary room and share some insights and actions, hopefully, which we will follow up. Fons, can you go to the next one again? Thank you. We now have a presentation from Joris Overmeer. He's working for the European Commission. So can you please introduce yourself, Joris?
Yeah, of course. Hi, I'm Joris. I'm 24 years old, and I indeed work for the European Commission. I am part of the European Climate Pact team. I have worked there now for 4 months, and I'm mainly responsible for youth participation. So I'm the final responsible for youth participation. So if you have any question on that, very happy to answer. Yeah, that's pretty much it for me. All right, thanks. So the European Climate Pact. Well, I'm very curious. What I want to do today is first give an introduction, but I am honestly more interested in what you have to say and what you think the Climate Pact could and should be, because there is still a bit of space to also fill in what it can be. But could you go to the next slide, please? What's the Climate Pact? The Climate Pact is the participation part of the Green Deal. I can imagine that some of you have not really heard explicitly what the Green Deal is about, but the Green Deal in general is really about how can we, as the European Union, reach our goals and actually be climate neutral in 2050. And there we want to be a global leader, and the participation tool. So in Netherlands we had the Klimaatakkoord. On the European level, this is kind of like the equivalent. It's a bit different, which you'll see in a second, but it's really about bringing people along and giving people a place to take climate action and making it easier. Could you go to the next slide, please? So here, what is the Climate Pact? What are we focusing on? It's really about bringing people together in their everyday lives and finding opportunities to find those connections. Something that we'll discuss in a second with each other. And it's important to us that everyone can contribute. So not just one group, it's not just for one group, we have different strategies and different ways to engage with different people and different groups. Next slide, please. So it's based on several values. Whatever you do, however you are engaging with the Climate Pact, everyone should be involved, also in bigger organizations. It should be science-based, what you are doing. You should have a responsibility to your commitment. So for example, we are looking at organizational pledges, for example. The things that you are doing should be based in science, and also you should do something more than you are obliged to do by law. So it should be beyond the regulations. Transparency is important. So if you say that you're doing something, you should also show how you're doing those things. No greenwashing, obviously. Ambition and urgency is important to really convey action data to the local context, which I'll probably come to in the end of my presentation. Because as you can imagine, not every country is the same. Every country needs a more tailored approach to for the Climate Pact to be useful. So for example, so the discussion is in different stages in different countries. I'll come back to that later. And diversity and inclusiveness, so everyone again can join. Next slide, please. So why we should prepare? I think most of us, if you are in this meeting, will agree. We'll have to restructure and prepare a way we interact with nature. Because the way we do it now, it is not very sustainable. One of the main, we have particular focuses. So we want stronger action, but we also want to really encourage people to do more. And the Green Deal is also, continuously. It is the reason why the Green Deal is a thing is because of the action that others took before, like the youth activists. And we want to connect people from all walks of life. And it's really not just about, okay, we want to help you. A big part of the Climate Pact is also for the Commission to green itself, which will also be there will be an announcement on that as well. Right. Next slide, please. So who do we engage with? I think most of you will recognize a couple of them, at least. There's a very specific, there's a dedicated strand to youth participation, which I am responsible for now. And it's important because I myself am from the climate movement in the Netherlands. I know there are different needs in different groups, and youth is a specific case. We are also looking at public administrations, civil society, academia, multipliers. So, for example, influencers, or for example, a famous person or a local soccer player, businesses, you name it. Next slide, please. So what is it about? There are two parts of the Climate Pact: awareness and action. So the awareness part is about for the people that are not really doing, are kind of aware, but not really. What can they do? What are the things out there? And we also have an action part. Okay, so these are the actions you can take. So really distributing information, giving ways you can act. So you can learn about climate change, the awareness part, develop and scale the solutions, action, connect with others and maximize the impact of the solutions. Again, something we will talk about today, and support the climate movement. This is very broad because, for example, what we want to do with the Climate Pact is also signpost funds, which means that there are a lot of initiatives out there, but which ones are actually out there, because it's not as easy to figure out where you should be if you, for example, want to have a grant for a certain project. There are also another example I was working on today is youth participation. There are a lot of youth initiatives in different DGs, you could say ministries, and we want to try to bring those together, make it easier to navigate, and so it's easier for people to engage, because if you do not have the information, it is still a bit too hard to know where to start. And we'd like to bridge that knowledge gap. Next slide, please. So here we have our general theory of how we should engage. Like I said before, there are different levels of people that are engaged. But the two major ones you should look at here are the lukewarm, so the dark blue, I guess, maybe a bit black. The people that think it's important, know it's important, but are just on the verge of actually doing something. We really want to focus on those people, trying to encourage them to take action, and really making it more accessible as well. And for the committed people, I think a lot of people that are here will also fall in this group. People that are already doing something, how can we actually be useful for them as well? And here you can think about, okay, how could we make it easier for them to engage with our local politicians, for example, or with their local MEPs, so members of European Parliament. Yeah, so I think this is one of the main things about the Climate Pact. We don't have one particular goal, because we have two, one for every those very generalized still stakeholder groups, which are way different from each other. Next slide, please. So here the awareness part is really about information and learning. translate the knowledge, the scientific evidence to more accessible things. I think in the Netherlands, it is rather approachable. In some other countries, the basic information is not as distributed as well as it is here, and it can always be better, of course. We are promoting climate science and solutions. So we're really saying, okay, so this is what you can do. These are the things that are already out there. And a big thing in this age of fake news is looking at ways how we can debunk the climate myths and how we, so really just the plain lies, we're trying to also tackle those as part of the Climate Pact. And we have like this beautiful satellite event, online and offline get-togethers and events. Yeah, next slide, please. I think maybe the more important one for this particular session is the action part. We want to enable so democratic processes, science-based, hands-on. It's really about what we are trying to do right now, and this is still in development as well. So what I'll tell you now is not what the Climate Pact eventually will be. Is finding ways of how to make it more easier for people to engage with their politicians and all that kind of stuff, and to engage with each other by connecting them with one another. Important to note here as well, since it's really about enabling, it's really the facilitation part of the Climate Pact. A lot of the ideas, we will still actually gather a lot of ideas from the movement itself, and actually trying to figure out the needs of the movement in different parts of Europe, and really trying to tailor our action to that. So that's one of the main goals of the Climate Pact, which I personally think is really good, because no city is the same, no country is the same, no region is the same. So we shouldn't try to have one approach for everything. And in the end, I think the movement is the experts on what they need, and not the other way around. Building and supporting the multitude initiatives. So the well-known knowledge hub, where we're trying to accumulate information from within the movement, and that other people from the movement can use this information. So for example, okay, how do you get started with organizing maybe? How do you apply for funds? How do you have a social media campaign, especially in these times, very important, and not as straightforward as well. And an overview, like I said before, the signposting of the structures that you can use. So overview of available finance is a bit kind of like the same with signposting. Where do you need to go for what things? Last year, I was also doing this from the Netherlands, and it was sometimes a bit complicated. So we're trying to make that more structured and easier for everyone. And a very important part of action, both for individuals and organizations, is pledges. Pledges are ways, a public commitment to do a certain thing. Yeah, so that's a big part. We have the platform, which I'll come to in a bit, also for individual pledges. Next slide, please. But also part of the action and part of the awareness action part is ambassadors. Like we just saw a couple of ambassadors, the Dutch ambassadors. It's really, we try to be as diverse as possible. The idea is anyone can become an ambassador as long as they subscribe to the values. So we have the Stockholm mayor, we have a vice mayor, we have as an ambassador, and we have, for example, also a girl from the Scouts as well. And what we are trying to do is also try to bring this together in the long term, and really to empower the ambassadors to do their work as well as possible. Yeah, and also a big part of what we are also doing is trying to find ways how we can also include ambassadors in the European processes. So for example, we had a couple of European events on the European level, like the European Industry Days, and we then try to invite ambassadors as well, so they can give their input on these topics. Next slide, please. So here's the platform I very briefly referred to before. This we have a collaboration with Count Us In. which I highly recommend you can check out. What we try to do here is for individual pledges, people are able to pledge a certain thing. You have a couple of examples in the picture itself. And here you can say, okay, I want to do this for the environment. The nice thing is as well, this is very approachable. So this is really also the part of the climate pact that is focused on the lukewarm. And people are, one, they can show that they are taking action. And two, they get reminders on how much action they actually took. And you can see in the end, once you took action, how much CO2 emissions you've reduced. And later on, you will be able to also see how much an individual saved, or maybe how much a city saved in CO2 emissions. So you really make it more a community project, and really focused on the individual, but also the community, the city, whatever have you. Next slide, please. So there will be many ways to engage. I already mentioned them, but I just want to briefly summarize so you know. You can apply to become a Climate Pact ambassador. If you go to the Climate Pact website, you will be able to find a link. I could also share the link in the chat in a second. Initially, maybe if some people that are in this meeting already applied, initially it took a while for people to be assessed and then get a verification that they were indeed an ambassador. Now it's going a lot quicker. So if you would apply now, you will probably get an answer in like at most 3 weeks. Then try to commit a pledge. This can be either on the individual level via Count Us In, or you can express that you want to pledge to the Commission as well on the organizational level. So I'll share a link to that form as well. We're also, for the organizational pledges, we are also going to have a workshop with the different organizations. So there are a lot of NGOs in there as well, not just companies, on how we want to give that shape. And thirdly, you can organize a dialogue like the one that we're in right now. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Next slide. So yeah, every action counts. No action is too small. Thank you for your contributions. Yeah, questions?
Thank you, Joris. Indeed, now we have some time to answer questions. So if you have any, please enter them in the chat. We have already received a couple of questions. So also a question from Camille. The question is, how does the participation model represent resistance opposition, as there is against climate measures sometimes very determined?
Sorry, I don't think I really understand.
Camille, can you maybe explain your question?
Yeah, first of all, sorry, I'm in the darkness. That is just the shitty webcam of my private PC, my work laptop blocks Zoom. So yeah, what I wonder is, yeah, view the participation. It is of course modeled in positive terms. People are either sort of aware but not really doing anything, or they're active and committed. But of course, what we see in practice in the climate debate is that there are also a lot of people who are very much against climate measures, right, or doubting climate science and everything like that. So how do we model that? Because I think that's the very interesting part.
Right. So what we do with the Climate Pact, we don't necessarily put a lot of time and resources into trying to convince those people that climate change is real. What we, however, do is tackle fake news. So if we try to tackle misinformation. Also the reason why we don't spend too much time on this is also what you see in a lot of grassroots organizations. Usually you try to focus on the people that are lukewarm, and the majority were not taking action, but do think it's important, because also what you see in the EU barometer, like the poll of the European citizens, that most people by far think that climate change is an important issue and something should be done about it. So just in general, we don't have particular actions. There are also certain regions in Europe which are just greatly affected by climate action actually being taken, because they're still very dependent on the fossil fuel industry. In those cases, we have the Just Transition Fund and the Just Transition programs. So we try to tackle it in that way. But just in general, for climate change deniers and people that don't want to take action, we don't focus too much on it other than trying to tackle fake news.
Yeah, sounds like a sensible investment of resources.
Thank you, Joris. We have another question from, let's see, Bert. Is there funding available for organizing dialogues?
Great question. Unfortunately not, no. So what we can do is help you with the communications and making sure that people know about your event. Unfortunately, we don't have funds to actually support the satellite events. So that's a very quick question, quick answer.
Thank you, Joris. I have another question from Indra. Is there any progress in stimulating the protein transition? Maybe you can explain it, Indra. Or do you understand the question, Joris?
Yeah, I do understand the question. Well, at least I think so. So I think what you're talking about is that we should move to a more plant-based diet, right? Great question. So the Climate Pact is not specifically about a campaign on a particular topic within climate action. So it's mainly focused on just taking climate action in general. That being said, on the Consent platform, there is a pledge that you can make on eating more plant-based products. So that would be the part of it. But generally speaking, the Climate Pact is focused on participation, people changing minds, changing habits, and making people, encouraging people to be more sustainable and be more proactive in protecting the environment.
Thank you. I see that Everest is raising his hands.
Yes, I'm sorry. I hope that's all right. I thought it would be easier to just speak it rather than write it up. All right. I work for a company that's hoping to educate children to do with energy transition. And I was interested in looking into an organizational status as an ambassador for them. And I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more to the incentives for doing something like that so that I can sell something like this to my boss.
Yeah, so if I understand correctly, what you want to do is for your organization to have a representative ambassador. So what I didn't explain before, you can be an ambassador as an individual. You can also become an ambassador for an organization. So as a representative of an organization. Are you talking about that?
I am, yeah.
So what would be the main advantages? So there are a couple. One, well, you would be showcased on the website. I'm not really sure if that's too useful for you in your case. Two, you would be in touch. It would easily be brought into touch with the other ambassadors. So it would help you bring network, and we will also be able to facilitate it more in the future. And three, you will also have access to trainings. So for example, I actually accidentally talked about it today. We are looking into ways how we can bring the Climate Pact also to schools and have like things that you can use there as well. So that would be a big plus. That's not there yet though, but it will be coming, hopefully.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
So convince your boss, Everest.
Oh, Noor, please unmute yourself.
Sorry. We have a couple of more questions, I see, but we are about to start our panel discussion, so we will definitely also answer some of these questions during the panel discussion. And keep them coming. If we are not able to discuss them now, we will try to answer them personally later on. So please keep posting your questions. Now I would like to start the panel discussion, which for which we have invited a couple of nice speakers, which will be introduced by Fons. So please, Fons, over to you.
Yes, I'm adding the speakers all to the spotlight. So
Yep.
One moment. I'm also adding myself so that everybody can see me also on the YouTube live stream.
That would be nice.
Yes, I'm seeing everybody. Hello. Yeah, so I'm the moderator for this panel discussion. As I told you all, I've been active for climate action here in the Netherlands for a couple of years. For instance, we now already here in the Netherlands have a Dutch climate agreement. We're now also in the midst of the regional energy strategies. So how to translate the climate agreement to the regions regarding renovating houses. Where are we putting renewable energy systems into place together with the energy infrastructure? And there are also a lot of programs from European programs in the Netherlands, like interregional cooperation, Interreg with Germany, also with Northwest Europe. We have Erasmus Plus about the youth exchange, but also about education systems. We have the European Solidarity Corps about volunteering, and there are multiple programs which we will also share later on with you in the finalizing mail. But I think what is very important is that we are discussing about how this European Climate Pact can actually really be a suitable addition to what we're already doing. And therefore, we have invited various guests here that you see in the spotlight. So a warm welcome to Roel, Aniek, Nina, and Joris again. So let's also introduce our panelists, starting with Roel.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. I'm Roel. I'm responsible for the Buurkrachten Foundation. And what we do, we help local communities to improve their neighborhood, make it more safe, and of course, more sustainable. And we find and support local ambassadors and find other volunteers. And together we form so-called community teams. And we help them mobilize other neighbors to join their actions. And these actions can be about isolating dwellings, making the neighborhood more green, safer, or just make plans about a so-called fossil gas-free neighborhood. And what we do, we offer methods, communication tools, and guidance. We've been already helping more than 600 neighborhoods already. So we have some experience. We're already there in the Netherlands for 8 years. We've been cooperating in the past with the Danish and Belgian institutions and learn about how to mobilize a neighborhood. And I'm happy to be here because this all starts with ambassadors. And I think this is more or less the platform for it, right?
Great. Thanks, Roel. To you, Aniek.
Yes, thank you, Fons. My name is Aniek Mone, and I am a board member for the Jonge Klimaatbeweging, which is translated, that's the youth climate movement in the Netherlands. I am 23 years old, which is something in my work you have to stress, but don't expect me to ask that from everyone here. The Youth Climate Movement is an umbrella organization for more than 75 youth organizations in the Netherlands. And with that, we represent over 100,000 youth or young people in the Netherlands. And our goal, so the reason we were set up is to get young people structurally involved in climate policymaking, to make sure that our generation's wants and needs are being taken into account when people in politics are actually deciding for our future. So since 2016, 5 years ago, we've been actively engaged in conversations with policymakers, politicians, and companies to lobby for more ambitious climate policies, but also for structural youth participation. And this lobby in politics, but also with policymakers, is based on our youth climate agenda, which is something very unique because it's a vision document in which we present the Dutch solutions to be truly sustainable in 2050. So in the agenda, we describe how we want to live, work, eat, learn, and travel in 2050, which is something really interesting to read if you haven't already. In the past 5 years, the Youth Climate Movement, has grown from a very small organization really to an indispensable stakeholder in the Dutch climate debate, which is something really, really cool. So for instance, in 2017, we contributed to the drafting of our Dutch climate agreement, the National Climate Agreement. And more recently, we were able to add the generations check to the National Climate COVID-19 Fund, which makes sure that all of the expenses from that fund do not harm unnecessarily young generations in 20 to 30 years. So
interesting. Annick,
yeah.
Short question, is the climate agenda also in English or only in Dutch yet?
It is, I think, only in Dutch.
So that's a small action point to note.
I think there's a short translation to English. Yeah, Joris is right. The whole document, the longer document is in Dutch, but there's a summary in English as well. So
I think a lot of European youth would really love to see this Dutch vision.
Yeah.
To you, Nina.
Yeah, thank you, Fons, and thank you for inviting me. My name is Nina Knol. I work for the province of Groningen, and I'm the policy officer for European affairs, which basically means that right now I'm, well, and have been for a year, very busy with all the policy and legislation proposals from the European Commission out of the Green Deal. The Green Deal is, for the province of Groningen, very important because it really connects to our own ambitions. It fits really well. So we are really trying to see how we can contribute to the ambitions which are set in the Green Deal as well. And one of the reasons it is so important for us is, I think, because you all know in Groningen we have a big transition to make because of the stop of the gas winning. So we have to switch to other resources. It's a big challenge. And that's also why the European Commission recommended Groningen as a just transition region, which means that basically we are applicable for money out of the Just Transition Fund. So right now we're working on our plan, how to make that transition. So yeah, that's basically our challenge right now. And I'm also really interested to hear all your ideas about how to involve all the stakeholders in this process, because it's a transition, which will have a lot of impact on the entire community. So it's really important that we get everyone along. So I'm really looking forward to the discussion about this.
Thanks, Nina. I think it's also a tradition in the Netherlands to invite all stakeholders, like the polder model. So let's see how we can further extend that to make sure that really everybody participates structurally. I think the first question I want to pose to all of you, and then we can also move more about the intertwining issues that you face, is what are the barriers you face to scale up or to speed up your plans and your actions? Maybe you, Roel, you want to start with that?
Yeah, sure, Fons. In terms of speeding up, the model that we use is more or less the innovation curve. I don't know if everybody knows that, but it starts with the pioneers and then the early adapters, and then you move on to the early majority and the late majority and the laggards at the end. That is how we approach the energy transition, because it's a social transition. It's not a transition about technique. It's a transition about how we move people. And our starting point is that sustainability is important, and lots of Dutch people, and also I think in Europe, European people think it's sustainability is an important issue, but it's not that important to get on their top 5 list daily agenda, which means that in the end, a holiday or I don't know, something else is more important. And that means that we have to get it on this top 5 list, and we do that through finding ambassadors like us, like we all are in a neighborhood, and try to form teams in order to make them go door by door and tell the story and communicate about it, because I'm convinced that is one of the most effective ways in order to get people who are in basic interested in the subject but need a little kick. In English it's called nudging. You need a nudge, and in terms of scaling up, that is a problem, of course, because if we need to nudge everybody, it takes a while. Well, normally from a governmental perspective, you would suggest, well, you step over it and you do something else. You do a big campaign. But I know for sure we've been now in this process for several years already, and I believe that also on governmental level, people are acknowledging the fact that this is in essence the most effective process we can do. And then if you look at that from that point of view, then it's the question is how can you scale up that process? And these are a lot. Well, you have a lot of IT tools that can help you with it. But it starts with a good conversation, and it starts also with forming these kind of groups like you have here now, because then you find yourself supported.
So that means we need more ambassadors and local leaders, so everybody can do that, and this European Climate Pact can be a new wave of ambassadors that eventually can help bring the European spirit also into the local communities and vice versa.
Yeah, and if I may add, there's one important thing. There are only a few of us who start from scratch. Most of us want to have somebody who can help us or unbump the road we are ahead. And that is what we do. We help unbumping this road. And that is, you can do through IT tools, what I say, like you have several communication platforms you can use, several stuff, and also learn of the problems that others have already faced. So I think it's very important that we scale up these unbumping tools.
Check. Anik, how do you see it? Do you see that how youth or your young climate movement can scale up your advocacy? How youth can really take action in the execution of the European Climate Pact, in the Dutch Climate Agreement? And how do you see that the European Green Deal or this European Climate Pact can help you specifically?
Yeah, I think one of the things we struggle with is that I think a lot of people would agree that youth participation is good nowadays, but we always in our communication add the word meaningful, because that is a thing that we still struggle with. I think in a lot of different levels of society. So if you're talking about the businesses or politics, it's become pretty trendy to actually involve youth in the process of drafting policies or of drafting new ideas for businesses. But it often is still lacking how they can meaningfully contribute. So I think a question that many people fail to ask themselves is, why do we want to include youths in the process, and what can they bring to the process that other people cannot? And that is something we still struggle with. I think we're very lucky to be living in the Netherlands, where young people actually have quite a large voice in comparison to other countries. But it doesn't mean that we're being taken seriously as much as other people are. So that is something we still struggle with. And I think the Climate Pact is another way of showing that everyone could be involved in climate policies and in making or solving climate change. That's not too big of a goal, but also to showing that everyone could be like a meaningful contributor to that goal.
And how do you see that, Nina, in Groningen? You say you've got big challenges ahead in Groningen. How do you see that the European Climate Pact could help you? What kind of barriers do you see in your personal sphere from working? How you can scale up these policies, or the impact that you can create with these policies in your province?
Yeah, well, as a regional government, I think one of the biggest challenges is that we have to take into account all the different interests. We cannot just think of a solution and just implement it. We have to, for example, with windmills, you have to take into account that people live in those villages. You have to take up space, which otherwise might be used for other purposes. So you have to factor in all those things, and that makes it quite challenging. And I believe that people sometimes feel that decisions are made for them with regard to climate measures. And I actually hope that the European Climate Pact might create some kind of ownership among people, that they really feel that they have something to say about it and to contribute, because you see it in several projects regarding energy, for example. If people own part of a windmill and really, are part of the solution, then they are quite positive about it. So I hope that the European Climate Pact can stimulate that in a way, that more people feel ownership for the problem, and that can help, I think.
Maybe that's a nice follow-up question to all of you. If you say, hey, people are not feeling enough ownership, do you see that with a Dutch climate agreement and with the regional energy strategies that that the European Climate Pact is a very much welcome instrument how to create more ownership? Do we see that that there is still a lack of it, and why?
Yes, I think so. I think if you'd ask random people on the streets if they feel some type of ownership over the Dutch climate agreement or the regional energy strategies, I think the latter people don't even know about, probably. So I think that would be a very good thing, that people become more familiar with those agreements and those deals. But it'd be a challenge, I think, to incorporate those into the Climate Pact program. So I'm curious to also hear about how you would want to incorporate for instance, the regional energy strategies into the Climate Pact.
Maybe Joost, can you think about
Yeah,
it?
exactly.
Because you know the Dutch and the European situation.
Yeah. So I also worked on the regional energy strategies last year. So I also spoke with a lot of people how difficult it is for encouraging people to actually work on regional energy strategies, because most people maybe in the school won't even know, because it's not communicated well enough thus far. So I think for the Climate Pact, what would be a way that the Climate Pact could help in this case, but I also know that the Dutch government is working on this as well, is advertising that this is something that you can work on. And two, what we'll probably have is not just national hubs, but maybe also local hubs. And the regional energy strategy, it's in the name, is very much focused on the regions. So we could also advertise that people can contribute, because in the particular case of the regional energy strategies, I think there are a couple of problems, but one of the main problems is people just don't know about it. People know about windmills being placed in the backyard that they don't want. People don't know about regional energy strategies. So I think it would be good for the Climate Pact would be to be an easy way for people to know that they can engage there. I don't think there should be a place for the Climate Pact to do more than that, because I think that's more up to the Dutch government to actually do the participation of the regional energy strategy itself. That's really the Dutch government that does that.
But
What you see in, sorry, Frans, can I add something?
Of course, go ahead.
What you see in practice, because we've been involved in several of these regional strategies, and also on national level. What I noticed that is happening is that a lot of these plans are being made, and they're in concept right now, and they have to be finalized in the later on this year. But the problem is that it's only part of what we say counselors, or how do you say that? People who work for governments, and which means it's not part of the communities itself. And at this moment, they have drawn, well, what you say, sort of a map of places where windmills or solar fields can be placed. But if you present these pictures, then you organize your own resistance. And this is where you and we all come in, because I think it shouldn't start with advertising about this map. It should start with a positive story. And this positive story is what we do. And this is where it should start. And that's also what we are advising them to do, just to turn around the process, because normally a government proposes a policy. That is also what the European Union has always done: propose and then talk about it, deliberate, blah blah blah. But in this subject, I think we should turn it around and start with positive projects and start with giving the communities the space to make their own plans. So this is and we need every ambassador to in order to do so. So I would suggest that this pact sees a role for itself from that perspective.
Maybe other people that want to comment on that? It remains very silent.
Yeah, so I was just thinking, so really to make the ideas come bottom up for the regional energy strategies, you mean?
Yeah, positive story.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So, and how would you see it with engaging, for instance, experts or more collaboration among the borders in the border region? Do we see that already happening with our Dutch climate agreement about how in general our Dutch climate agreement functions with regards to climate movements in other European countries or neighboring countries or countries that face the same similar problems? How do you see that?
Personally, but maybe that's just my limited experience, of course, is I have not really seen that that we would really be collaborating over the Dutch borders.
I've seen it several times already.
Oh,
so that is a good. I think it's a good sign, but it's very incidental. So it's not in a systematic way. What we see now, there's a discussion going on at a national level about what you call burger panels, which is burgerfora, which is like groups of people who've been selected to act like a jury, what we see in the States on the energy or on a climate issue. In France, it has already been in place, also in Ireland in several subjects. And what you see there is that the Dutch government looks at these kind of instruments to involve more people. And in order to get more people talk about it, so it's all these kind of instruments are popped up at this moment because this is such a hot issue. Everybody feels that if we go along at the same way as we are doing now, so making plans and then surprising everybody with these kind of maps, like, oh, there's a windmill in my backyard, we create our own resistance. And I bet this is not only in the Netherlands. I bet it's also in Germany and Belgium and other places. And that is what we see as well in these kind of discussions. We involve a lot of European experts, and we hear the same thing.
Check. Maybe that brings me to the last question that I want to pose to all of you about what do you see is crucial in order to let the European Climate Pact also succeed in the Netherlands and its neighboring regions around it? Think for a second.
For me, it's very important that you bring along a lot of knowledge also from other European countries. That is thinking, and is essential. That's a USP you have. And otherwise, it's very important that you more or less find your ways through the local energy corporations who are there actively already. Because if you want to be active, it's very important that you find your local partners. Because if you want to make impact, if you just want to talk about it, please stay on national level. But your impact is limited. I have to be fair about that. If you want to have more impact, you have to get involved locally.
Yeah, I think a very important thing is that the threshold for becoming an ambassador or joining the Climate Pact program should be very, very low. I think that's one thing. So I mean, when I first heard about the ambassadors, they sounded like they were an elected group of people. Whereas if people really get to know that anyone could become an ambassador, and that is something that you can do. I think I asked someone yesterday, like if I have a little garden in the back of my house and I grow my own vegetables and I love to do that, then that's already a good enough of a reason to become an ambassador. And I think that is something that people should know about. And I think Nina already touched upon the issue of ownership. And I think if you can somehow create some ownership around these climate pact programs for people to be really proud to be a climate ambassador for their specific country, but at the same time be part of a bigger initiative that crosses these borders. I think that would be really valuable.
Nina, how do you see it?
Yeah, I totally agree, and I would like to add that I think it's also important to really look closely at all the initiatives and things that are already there, especially at local level, since a lot is already happening. So I would say use that as much as you can, instead of like finding it out all on your own all over again. Because I think if you can connect all the dots and all the initiatives that are already there, that already might have a big impact.
Thanks, Nina. Fair.
I was
agree
about
with
to say, I think
Oh,
for the
yes.
Netherlands in particular case, because we already have a lot of initiatives. So I think the first thing to do is really bring those initiatives together, or at least make the climate pact the continuations of those initiatives before actually starting something new. And with the Netherlands, I also think, well, that's not particular to the Netherlands, but I also think it's good to talk with those initiatives that are already there to see what's needed, like the general idea of the climate pact really, and then see what's needed for the climate pact and then do those things. That's very general, but I think that would be useful. Yeah, and then for example, if you wanted to do lobbying, for example, on local, national level, doesn't really matter. It would be also useful to have some information on how certain things work, not like politically, but I mean more sustainable solutions. How do they work? Why does it make sense to implement? That kind of information could also help, because if you want to convince policymakers in the Netherlands, if you have high quality information, it's very doable to convince them, in my experience. So I would also like to do that.
Thanks. It's exactly 8 o'clock, Noor. Back to you.
Thank you to all of you. So I think the message is become an ambassador, and hopefully the ambassadorship will be a way to collect all the existing initiatives and yeah, create more action together. Thank you again to the speakers. We will finish the panel discussion and go over to the break. But before going into the break, I want to ask everyone if you haven't done already, because I see a lot of you already has put the number of the breakout room you want to join in front of your name. For the ones who haven't done yet, Fons, can you put the sheet again where the 5 breakout rooms are presented?
Yes, I'm doing that. Give me 1 second.
Yes.
So I'm sharing my screen again. I will display the breakout rooms.
So the goal of the breakout rooms is to actually interact and to have conversations also with you. We have 5 types of breakout rooms. The first one is about improving your way of life, so in incorporating sustainability in your daily life, which is led by Laura, one of our ambassadors. The second one is if you want to get active in your neighborhoods, then you should definitely join this breakout session with Levin and Roel. The third one is about the province of Groningen and how we can support the just transition. So if there are anyone from the north, you should join this breakout room to have some influence on the plans. The fourth breakout room is about youth participation. If you want to participate more with other youngsters in climate action, join the group with Chebe and Annie. And lastly, the breakout session to have more European collaborations with that. So if you haven't done yet, please put the number in front of your name. You can do that by clicking on your screen where your face is. Right on the right corner, there are 3 dots, and then you can rename your name. then we will have a break, and let's agree to return in 5 minutes.
Yeah, so at 8 past 8, we will start directly. So I'm now making the groups. So please take a cup of coffee or some tea. In the meanwhile, our team is dividing the people up in the groups. So see you in 5 minutes.
Quick question.
Yes.
Would it be all right if I join group 4? Because tomorrow we have a deep dive, which means that we will have a organizational meeting, a strategic meeting on youth participation.
Of course. I think, Joost, that maybe the first part you join group 4, but maybe I think because also a lot of international people are in group 5, I really advise you also to go there. So to switch, I can help you with switching between the groups.
Yes, thank you, because I don't think I'm able to.
Great. I'm stopping sharing the screen, so the groups are still available in the chat. And right now I'm making all the... Noor, can you help putting yourself not anymore in the spotlight? I see it. So right now we see everybody. For the organization, it's a very diverse group. They are evenly distributed, so that's good.
Nice, good to know.
I have a question here. Is group 2 also interesting for people that want to do this in their own country but outside of the Netherlands?
Yeah. It's really about getting the tools how to get active. So thanks for asking the clarification. Yeah, so I've assigned all the groups, all the people to the groups. So for clarification, group 1 has 5, group 2 has 4, group 3 has 9, group 4 has 8, and group 5 has 13. So that you as moderators know how many people you can expect. All the people are assigned. I see I've got 2 minutes, so I will take some additional water. So I'm back in 1 minute. Group 2 is about being active. I'm reading your question though. I think you can still do that with group 2 because it's really about the tools, but also about maybe asking about other European organizations that can help you also in that way. So looking at similar organizations. and also learning from the case what is in the Netherlands, and also learning from the same problems or barriers that others face.
So I hope everyone is getting back.
Yes, please turn on your video camera. Also for the small groups, that would be better. And then I also know really about how many people are active. So please turn on your video. Then we know that almost everybody is about back. Good to see everybody. Yes, yes, almost all the screens are on. That's very nice. It helps also with the good interaction that you have in a small group. Okay, I see that most of the people are here. Yes, no? No?
We
no
will
last
take
ones?
about 30 minutes. And after that, we will come back to the plenary session and share some insights. So if everyone is here, I want to ask Fons to bring us to the breakout room.
Yeah, I will do it now. So see, have a lot of fun. And if you have any troubles, just contact me via the moderator. I'm available via WhatsApp, and otherwise in the chat. I will also go by the groups just to check if everything is all right. Okay, have fun. So now you see the invitation. If people are still on Facebook, I will add the Zoom link in the chat of YouTube, so that you can still join it from the breakout groups, so that you can also do it, because I will close down the live stream. So take one moment. I'm putting the Zoom link also now in the YouTube link. So take your time. I'm almost there. Yeah, I've got the link. So you do not need any password. You can just join it if you want to. Yeah, so I've shared the Zoom link. I will add you, I'll allow you. So you see it in the chat. And otherwise you need to send a mail to fons.jansen@gd4y.org.